Welcome to my first video in about a week. I was feeling sick for a little bit, so talking was challenging, but I'm all better now. So we're going to continue our Sun and Moon series. We're on Cancer Sun with Pisces Moon, which I had written up a description for a request someone had made on a video, and then just out of the blue I was watching some videos on YouTube, and I happened upon Robin Williams' appearance on the Actors Studio, and then I looked him up, and he's Cancer Sun with Pisces Moon. Coinky-dink. So, of course, just parsing out the Sun and the Moon has limited capabilities when it comes to taking in the entire personality, but it can shed a little bit of light. And when we talk about the Sun and the Moon, we talk about the Sun being the spirit, the vitality, the true will, what drives your willpower, your ego. And the Moon is more subconscious, unconscious reactions, and how you feel at home, emotionally, how you feel safe, or how you react when you're threatened, and how you might express and receive emotions. Seems pretty cut and dried. They're for sure two opposite sides of the spectrum, and they are some of the most prominent areas of a chart as the two main luminaries. And the moon is said to develop a little bit earlier than the sun. So a child under the age of, let's say, 7 or 8 may reflect more closely their moon sign characteristics, and the sun sign tends to come out a little bit after that, about 8, 9, 10 years old. Okay, so let's get started. Sun in Cancer is living through nurturing, and we love all signs, of course. And it's also important to realize that I may make some distinctions here between male and female Cancers, because Cancer is the sign that is ruled by the moon, and we're talking about it in its opposite luminary, the sun, and we're also talking about a sign that possesses strong attachment to the mother. Usually we talk about the moon telling a lot about how the mother or mother figure was perceived or how they influenced you. When it comes to Sun in Cancer, it usually does mean the actual mother, but that's not cut and dried. Sun in Cancer, both male and female, will have a very strong bond with their mother, regardless of whether or not they were, a really nurturing mother, or maybe they were hard and strict. Perhaps they were absent. And so if there's an absence of biological mom in a Cancer's chart, or in a Cancer's life, sorry, and that could be indicated in the chart too, with certain housing placements or otherwise, then the absence of the mother figures very prominently into the Cancer Sun's ego and their ability to either feel internal empowerment, or how they try to overpower others, other characteristics of the sun, right? We think about third chakra. If you think in those terms, if giving you some chakra indications, like, does that help you understand it more? Then I liken the sun to the third chakra primarily. So with that attachment to the mother and that motherly quality, male and female Cancers can be, by nature, very nurturing and very caring for others, sometimes to the point where they stick their nose in, especially if there's a rising sign or a driving force with the fire sign somewhere else that indicates that they might be a bit more pushy, for lack of a better term. And Cancer females in general, because of the society in which most of us grow up, will feel much safer expressing those more motherly matriarchal traits. Whereas the male Cancer, if you grew up in the patriarchal society most of us are living in, will probably have a harder time unless their father happened to be a sensitive person that exemplified to their son that being sensitive is okay and that crying is okay and that having emotions that are considered to be more feminine are absolutely normal. And that's pretty rare in this society. Although I have seen in male Cancer's charts where there'll be indication in certain areas, like Moon in the 10th house, for instance, where there may have been a male prominent in their lives that was very successful and they looked up to that possessed these nurturing qualities. And so they were able to look up to somebody that embodied their solar qualities. That's just one of a few examples. So it can happen, but it is fairly rare. And so when the solar Cancer, whether male or female, gets the impression that their ability to care for and their ability to dote on others and be there for them is unappreciated, the Cancer Sun gets pretty wounded quite easily in that sense. And when a Cancer is wounded, they like to hide in their little hermit crab shell. And they generally don't forget when they've been rejected in some way, especially as we bring into the picture the Pisces Moon. So we have two water signs. One is mutable, one is cardinal. Pisces mutable, Cancer cardinal. And we have the two earliest developing aspects of a chart and some of the two most powerful aspects of a chart in two very emotional signs. And with Pisces, emotions are generally quite a bit deeper and more subconscious and buried a little bit further under some denial in the moon sign. And with Cancer, the emotions tend to be easier to read on a Cancer person. They may not always show what they're feeling, but it's much easier to read it. It tends to be more surface in their bodies and in their countenance, and they can have a very sharp tongue if provoked, and they can strike out just as wickedly as any Scorpio might be known to do so. The only difference is Cancer tends to feel kind of really bad after they do it. But if they feel threatened, or if you have threatened their family in any way, then you will get both claws and potentially an entire army of crabs coming your way. Nourishment that they're able to provide. And because of their sensitive nature, they're highly sensitive. So let's bring this a little bit towards the Pisces Moon. The Pisces Moon is also highly sensitive. It's security through accepting. And as the moon is very yin, and yin qualities are very receptive, and Pisces is feminine and water, then this Pisces moon can be overly receptive. So you think of a Pisces moon having extra like antennae all over their body. They just can really pick up on information that's going on around them. But whereas the Cancer tends to pick up more people's emotional output, the Pisces moon tends to pick up subtler cues and true motives, and just their antennae produce more gut reactions in the moon, especially because if you want to again liken moon to the chakra system, which is fine, then we would put that in second chakra, which is the where your clairsentience is and your gut feelings are, your intuition. And it's also the the center of pleasure and bringing differences together, like the yin and yang together. And it is the reproductive system in females and is often considered the second heart chakra for women or highly feminine types. And anyone with Cancer Sun and Pisces Moon will be a highly feminine type. And as long as the subject learns how to familiarize themselves with expressing things, and they may express in a masculine way, like if they have a masculine rising sign, and or we'll say Mars in the first house can create more forceful expression. But in general, they're more prone to expressing feelings and how they feel about things, and the lesser developed subjects with this might be more prone to expressing hurt and pain, either through actually saying I'm hurt or in pain, or I don't think you like me, or why are you angry at me, to projecting those feelings by, you know, maybe subtly hurting others or pushing people's buttons and then pretending, or maybe they really don't realize they're pushing buttons, because Cancer with Pisces Moon tends to be less, they're so receptive that they tend to be less able to pick up their own motives for certain things, and very often there are they are told that maybe they aren't as sensitive to other people's feelings as they think they are, and that could be quite a blow, because they generally don't have any desire to truly hurt somebody. But again, because they're so busy early on in life picking up what's going on around them, they assume that that means they're highly sensitive, and therefore they must be a kind and reasonable person. So as we go more into a lunar Piscean, the lunar Pisces may have picked up fears and worries from their mother early on. This is fairly common. They may have fears that they don't even know why they have them, because what they picked up from their mother or their mother figure was so early on and young in life that all they could do is intuit them, and they can't put a palpable reason as to why. Another Sun in Pisces, Sun in Cancer with Pisces Moon, is Debbie Harry of Blondie. And Debbie Harry was actually adopted, and she said she always had this fear of abandonment. And she was adopted, I believe, when she was 3 years old. So I've also known quite a few Pisces Moon subjects who were either adopted, or they would describe their mother as kind of a worrywart and maybe even a little bit overprotective. And in other cases, the Pisces mother may have been even a bit more hands-off, and that may have come across as not caring so much, particularly with a solar Cancer. But perhaps that the mother thought that being more hands-off and giving the child more freedom was a better alternative to being overprotective. And there's other clues in about how the early years were. So the other thing about Pisces Moon is that they often can feel like a fish out of water as they're growing up, and because they're mutable, they're able to ingratiate themselves with groups of people that they want to be part of. But it also kind of makes them wishy-washy too, and so the tendency might be to not stand up for people, even though they know that they probably should have, that were being made fun of. But because the Pisces Moon was able to make themselves so innocuous to the rest of the group, they were able to blend in the background and not really be the source of any controversy. Or perhaps, especially with that Cancer Moon vibe, they may have just decided to kind of be hermits and not really be part of a crowd. And I found a lot of people with this combo, I mean, I can only think of 5 off the top of my head, were only children. It's kind of interesting. I don't think that it's a sole factor to determining someone being an only child, but it seems to be a thread. And a Pisces moon, also the mother figure may have been one that was perceived as not fitting in. So a Pisces moon subject, they may have had a mother that didn't really seem to have a lot of friends, or didn't, was just different, a little bit different from everyone else, and didn't seem to have a support systems, and perhaps even would try to find other people and flit in and out of relationships, or in and out of different states of the relationship with the father or father figure. So then the Pisces moon subject picks up these unconscious insecurities and fears, and they don't actually belong to them, you know. The tendency in touchy emotional situations would be to retreat and avoid conflict. So a Pisces moon, for the most part, now we're not going into a lot of details here, but mostly the first reaction would be to create either peace and not ruffle the feathers, or just kind of run away. Now the Libra moon is more likely to actually try to create peace, because they don't want conflict either. But the Pisces moon would rather just sort of fade away into the background. And again, it depends. If the Cancer aspect is threatened in a way where they don't feel appreciated, or they feel taken advantage of, or again, someone in the family, particularly a child, is being threatened or made fun of, then forget it. The Pisces moon really won't care, and it will default to the protective nature that the Cancer sun naturally possesses. And if there's any other planets in Cancer in the chart, that's something to consider, and where they're placed housing wise, right? So sometimes this combination can come across as a bit of a doormat, and the problem is that they really just want to help people. The Cancer has a long memory for being hurt, but the Pisces tends to forgive quite easily, and they root for the underdog, and they also have a tendency, both of these signs could be Cancer moon, Pisces sun too, they could be flip-flopped, tend to repeat the same patterns in relationships, friendships, lovers, whatever. And you also have to remember that with a Cancer, especially, in this case, you have to look at their relationship with their mother. So it's not just about looking at the moon sign now, it's also because Cancer is the sign of the mother. You have to see what's the relationship of this Cancer subject to their mother, because however they treat their mother will almost directly correlate to how they treat you if you're a female. Now you can say that about a lot of people for sure, without a doubt, because I've observed it myself, but I've also observed it where it didn't come out that way in certain people, and and I think it has a lot to do with a few factors. But in particular, if you see the Cancer sun doing anything or saying anything that's really out of line about or to their mother, believe it when you see it, that it is most certainly going to reflect back to you. Obviously, there are exceptions, right? If the Cancer subject is a very realized, evolved subject, and they're able to see how maybe they see other women as their mother, and they can separate it and they understand it, then forget it. Once somebody is realized and they see their behaviors and they change them, then you have someone who's evolved past that. And once a Cancer in particular evolves past that, then what they'll do is they'll treat women in a way where they'll start to attract women who are what they feel was missing in their mother, because they're able to embody those qualities. They don't feel stunted anymore because of how they were treated or not treated by their mother, right? Okay, so this is really important. Cancer sun and Pisces moon stand alone, and especially together, you need time to yourself. Retreat time is really important. You need time to recharge, and if you make the mistake of running head first, or or just keep going, there will be consequences. Usually they turn into what one might liken to a nervous breakdown, or they get very physically ill, because the body is usually the last part to join in when the mind and the spirit are broken and ill. Also, it's easy for cancers to be a bit snappy. They are known for being moody. So there is the snappy, and then there's the apology, and maybe they're brooding a little bit too much. And with the combination of Pisces Moon and the escapism we talked about, drug use, or anything where there's an ability to kind of get out of reality, which of course you can call escapism, but anything that takes them out of the reality that they're looking too hard at and lamenting too hard over, it's a definite side effect to having these emotional feelers that don't really know the difference between what they're feeling and what they're picking up. And the ability to create a boundary so you can observe the world going on around you and not allow it to mess with your joy or your contentment or satisfaction with your life. That's really anybody's goal in life, right? And again, if you're as sensitive as a Cancer sun with Pisces moon would be, that would be a very constant practice that would be important. So, of course, any sort of spiritual tradition, whatever it might be, anything that doesn't really, it doesn't force you to be judgmental or punitive, that won't fly too well with this combination. The only way that that sort of fire and brimstone would really appeal to this combination would be, let's say their mother was really into that, and that's how they grew up, and so they developed a serious fear of coming out of that system. And the Pisces moon does not have a lot of fortitude in a lot of ways to break free of the system, despite potentially being miserable in it. So there's that. And of course, as we talk about this subject, we're talking about huge creativity, because there's so much to tap into in the subconscious. And Cancer is really the sign of planting a seed, because it is the mother sign, and it's all about growing, and it's a cardinal sign. So it wants to start things. It wants to be the vanguard or the catalyst for different ideas. And a Cancer sun, when they're confident and empowered, are really good people for nurturing a project or an idea or a person from their littlest seedling conceptualization, right? So it's not just about nurturing babies into children, although that's something that they may have a really deep-seated desire for, but it's also about taking care of, gardens. Most Cancers I know, solar and lunar, love plants or gardens or growing stuff. And almost everyone I know loves the ocean. And if you got Cancer Pisces, then the ocean is probably going to be your happy place and a good place to go and heal. Also, we talk about the Cancer Sun Pisces Moon combination. I don't want to make them sound weak, because I mentioned the doormat thing earlier. So it's really important to understand that because neither sign is particularly strong where they are placed, that looking at other aspects would be really important. Like if you want to talk about Robin Williams, he had Scorpio rising, which is very intense, and he also had Mercury, which is the planet of expression and communication, up in the 10th house, right by his midheaven. And the midheaven is like your reputation and how you want others to see you, and how you hold yourself in the world, and how others see you. And you know, in Leo. So if you look at that, Leo's all about creativity and spontaneity and childlike um, expression. And so that's where we get a lot of, where Robin Williams always appeared to be channeling, just channeling all this crazy, funny, interesting, weird stuff. And yet, if you get him in certain interviews, and he's not there to, like, in a crowd of people, or there to entertain, he's extremely soft spoken and subdued, and that is really how he would be when he's comfortable. He's got 3 water signs, and the first 3 Scorpio, Cancer, Pisces, and so his actual, like, internal nature would have been to be much more calmer waters, much more placid. But you get him in a situation where there's other people there, and that entertainment part of him, it just would blow up and light up. And he said one of his big his mother was a big influence. He talks about her a lot, and how he just wanted to, like, make her laugh. And I mean, he talks about his father favorably as well, but his big motivation as a kid was making people laugh, and it started with his mother. And that was a really huge influence for him, and it just kept going from there. So, and it all depends on a lot of things that's going on with you. If you have Aquarius rising, for instance, then your means of expression would be a little bit loftier, a little bit expressing outwards in a more humanitarian sense. There might be a nervous energy about you. You might be a bit erratic sometimes in your expression. Sometimes, so there's multiple things to consider. And if you don't have that information in front of you, you know who you can go to. So in closing, we'll do what I like to do and go through the sort of the rundown, the quick thing, the downfalls and the boons to this. So here are the precautions. Not very grounded, too caught up in wishing or wanting to be taken care of by others. Easy to manipulate, especially if there's a promise of financial support, or, especially in the Pisces Moon side of things. Giving too much of oneself in relationships. Feeling obligated to take care of others, which is a huge Cancer thing, while simultaneously complaining about their health problem. Like, oh, I have to, you signed on to take care of somebody, but yet you don't make time for yourself, and you complain about it. Feeling like the world is against them and unable to take charge of their emotional state. They might run or strike out if they feel threatened, might take things too personally, be oversensitive, take words the absolute worst way possible. May not know the difference between their emotions and that of someone that's close to them. They could be easy to take advantage of because they're soft-hearted, and there's nothing wrong with that. Soft is resilient. At their worst, they could have, like, a Debbie Downer personality, and, there's always a tendency to be a mama's boy or mama's girl, which, again, depending on how mama treated them, could be, like, just a great, wonderful relationship, or something that's kind of a symbiotic, abusive thing, right? So here are the boons. Very heightened imagination, highly developed intuition, and a strong ability to care for others in various capacities. An experiential learner with a good memory for feelings and situations and recall of conversation, a good psychologist and listener, a sensitive and loyal friend, shrewd with money and land investments, because Cancer is home, and home is associated with land, adept at more typical homemaking skills and motivated to provide for the family, exceptionally creative, especially with child rearing techniques, a compassionate person that will champion the underdog, the addicted, the downtrodden, less likely to see boundaries, between people, between different ethnicities and socioeconomic. There's much blurrier lines because water is in and of itself doesn't really have boundaries. It just kind of stops where it stops, but then it can keep going. So they can be very open-minded people who are totally open to learning new things, new cultures, new people. So that's the gist of it. I can always go on longer. So if you want to know more and you want to schedule a one-on-one like this on video, or if we're able to meet in person, and if you live in another country and you have the money to fly me out, we can make this work. So the next one I'll be doing will be my Sun and Moon combo. That'll be Sun in Pisces, Moon in Sagittarius. So stay tuned for that. And I hope that you learned something and that you continue to learn every day. And I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching. So I just wanted to make an addendum, a little public service announcement. Cancer males tend to be like some of the most comfortable guys, in their mature stages of life, showing affection and sensitivity and emotion. But before that point, because there's a stigma in the society, unfortunately, regarding showing emotions like that, especially as a male, that can elicit feelings of shame or guilt for being sad or crying or, even anger. Sometimes we're told that that's not right to feel, or we shouldn't feel lust or anything like that. So it's particularly hard when you're picking up other people's emotions and you're rather sensitive yourself to be able to deal with that. And you don't have to be male to deal with it, because there's a lot of females like myself that grow up with a more masculine personality that we may have put on because we got the impression that if you acted masculine, you got more attention, or maybe you had somebody you were growing up with that was really masculine in nature that was female, right? So you just sort of decided to be more like that for whatever reason. So I would say that anytime, I don't think any emotion is bad to feel. And the more we allow ourselves to let the feelings move out of us, the less extreme the emotions become, and the less we're, pinging between, deep bouts of anger and sadness, and then, ooh, I'm suddenly really happy. So my suggestion for anyone with Cancer Pisces combinations in particular is just something I've noticed studying people for over 20 years. You'll notice patterns. Is seek some sort of counseling or a spiritual practice, or you don't need other people to help fix you. You have the tools, but sometimes a little encouragement and knowledge and wisdom from another party helps. That allowing yourself to feel the feels, all of them, and express them. And who cares what other people think? And once you allow yourself to feel things without, beating yourself up for it in some way, then not only are you not beating yourself up from the inside and feeling much more whole and complete, but the people around you also benefit, right? So that's just my addendum for this particular combination. Carry on.